Right now, the global oil system is fracturing. Saudi Arabia is trying to reroute it across an entire desert. Saudi Arabia is attempting one of the most daring logistical shifts in industrial history, physically disconnecting the world's energy supply from the most unstable waterway on Earth. As of March 2026, the global energy map has been forcibly redrawn. For decades, the Strait of Hormuz was a theoretical risk, a narrow needle's eye, through which 20% of the world's oil had to pass. But following the outbreak of the U.S.-Israel-Iran conflict in late February, that theory became a catastrophic reality. With the strait effectively shut down by naval mines and drone strikes, up to 17 million barrels of oil per day have been cut off from the global market. Think about that for a moment. That's not just a regional problem. That's a shockwave tearing through the entire global economy. But while other Gulf nations watch their tankers sit idle in a war zone, Saudi Arabia has activated a 45-year-old backdoor that most people have never heard of. It's called the Yanbu Passage. It is a 1,200-kilometer engineering system that effectively moves the exit point of the Saudi economy from the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea. But can a single pipeline built in the 1980s really carry the weight of global energy security? Or has the kingdom simply swapped one geographic trap for another? To understand the Yanbu Passage, you have to look at the raw physical reality of the Saudi desert. The kingdom's oil wealth isn't spread evenly. It is heavily concentrated in the eastern province. Under normal conditions, this oil is pumped into massive tankers at terminals like Ras Tanura, which must then navigate the 21-mile-wide Strait of Hormuz. In 1981, during the tanker war of the Iran-Iraq conflict, Saudi planners understood they were one blockade away from economic collapse. So they built a way out. The East-West Pipeline, also known as Petroline. This isn't just a pipe, it's a high-pressure industrial artery stretching across the full width of the Arabian Peninsula. The system is made up of twin lines, 48 and 56 inches in diameter, buried deep beneath the shifting sands of the Adana Desert and cut through the rugged Hijaz Mountains. Now here's where it gets interesting. Moving oil across this distance isn't as simple as letting it flow. Crude oil is thick, heavy, resistant. So Aramco runs 11 massive pumping stations along the route. These aren't small facilities, they are industrial fortresses. Each one uses powerful turbines to keep constant pressure, pushing millions of barrels across extreme terrain. And in the scorching 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, Saudi heat, engineers have to manage thermal expansion in the steel while stopping the crude from breaking down. For years, this system ran quietly in the background. But in March 2026, everything shifted. Aramco CEO Amin Nasser confirmed that the Petroline has been pushed to its absolute mechanical limit of 7 million barrels per day. This is full-scale industrial mobilization, a volume of oil so large it could fill over 4,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools every single day. The destination for all this oil is the port city of Yanbu, and almost overnight, it has been turned into a global energy superhub. The scale of this change is hard to overstate. In February 2026, Yanbu was loading around 1.4 million barrels per day. By mid-March, that number had surged past 2.5 million. And projections are pointing toward 3.8 million barrels per day. Now here's the part most people overlook. There's a hidden constraint: the port pipeline gap. While the pipeline can move 7 million barrels across the desert, Yanbu cannot export all of it. After accounting for local refining, like the massive Yasref facility, and domestic energy demand, the actual export capacity sits closer to 4.5 million barrels per day. That's a significant difference, and it creates a bottleneck right on the coast. To handle this surge, Yanbu has effectively become a floating city of oil tankers. Satellite images show more than 27 very large crude carriers anchored offshore. These are the skyscrapers of the sea, over 330 meters long, each carrying around 2 million barrels of crude. Coordinating all of this in a high-risk environment is one of the most complex logistical operations taking place anywhere in the world right now. The Yanbu Passage is an engineering masterpiece, but it cannot override geography, because in global trade, you don't eliminate risk, you negotiate with it. By going around the Strait of Hormuz in the north, Saudi Arabia has funneled its economic survival into another choke point in the south, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, also known as the Gate of Tears. And right now, it is becoming just as dangerous as Hormuz. This narrow passage connects the Red Sea to the Indian Ocean, and under normal conditions, it carries around 8 to 12% of global seaborne oil trade, which makes it one of the most critical maritime routes on Earth. But in recent years, this region has turned into a new front line. Houthi forces in Yemen, aligned with Iran, have repeatedly threatened and targeted shipping in the Red Sea using drones, missiles, and naval attacks, even without a full blockade. That threat alone is enough to disrupt global trade. Major shipping companies have already started rerouting vessels. Instead of passing through the Red Sea, ships are going around Africa, adding 10 to 15 days to journeys, pushing up fuel costs, insurance premiums, and delays across global supply chains. And here's where the situation becomes even more critical. Most of the oil leaving Yanbu is loaded onto very large crude carriers. These ships are simply too large to pass through the Suez Canal when fully loaded, which means they have no choice. They must go south, through Bab el-Mandeb. In fact, estimates suggest that 70 to 75% of the oil redirected through the Yanbu. Its passage now depends on this single route, so the risk didn't go away, just moved. And this is where the story stretches beyond oil. Because now energy security depends on something much bigger: the political stability of the Horn of Africa. Countries like Djibouti, Eritrea, and Ethiopia are no longer minor players. They sit along one of the most critical energy corridors on Earth. If instability spreads across this region, the entire Yanbu strategy starts to fall apart. And the only alternative? The Cape of Good Hope. Now think about that. Single tanker rerouted around Africa adds nearly 6,000 miles and roughly 2 weeks to its journey. That's not just a delay. That's millions of dollars in extra cost per ship. And those costs don't vanish. They ripple through the entire global economy. Despite all of this, the Yanbu Passage is doing something historic. It is shifting the center of gravity of Saudi Arabia itself, from a Gulf-dependent exporter to a Red Sea power. Under Vision 2030, this corridor is being rebuilt as something far greater than an oil route. It's becoming an industrial backbone, with power grids, desalination systems, security infrastructure, and even future plans to move hydrogen instead of oil. This isn't just a pipeline anymore, it's a long-term plan too. Redesign the kingdom's entire economic geography. The Yanbu Passage is not a perfect answer. It doesn't replace the Strait of Hormuz, and it doesn't wipe out global risk. But in a moment of crisis, it has become one of the most important pieces of infrastructure on Earth, a 45-year-old contingency plan that has suddenly become a lifeline. Because in the world of global energy, there are no safe routes. It's only different risks. And when one choke point breaks, the entire world scrambles to redraw the map.